Good evening, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to another group analysis session. Not the most straightforward of charts tonight. There's loads going on, loads of channels, trends, support and resistance zones, but it's really great to see that all of you had pretty much identified the key regions on tonight's chart. So obviously we're on the GBPAUD chart on the 4-hour time frame, and we're going to start off by seeing what channels or seeing if there's any trend lines in play, as obviously we've had a clear downtrend for quite some time. Price may be creating a new trend since we have a series of higher lows and the highs have slowly been becoming higher, but we seem to have stalled around this region here. So first things first, we'll take the trend line tool from the top left and we're going to try and link up some highs to see if we have any trend lines in place. So we'll start from the most significant high up here and we'll link it to the next most significant over here. So if we drag this across, what we can see is that in fact we do have a clear trend line, and this would have actually been a nice selling opportunity for us. We had the start of the trend line, we had the second touch pinpoint, so obviously if none of this had happened we would have still been linking this trend line with this high and then dragging it into the future. We can see we've had another rejection from this trend line and price has now fallen. We can do the same with the lows, so we'll take the trend line tool again, start from the most significant low down here and we'll link it up with the next most significant low over here. So the potential for buying opportunities in and around this area on the third touch of this ascending trend line this time. Since we're on the topic of ascending trend lines and looking around this region, we can have a look to see if we can see any levels of support and resistance. So price does seem to be getting stuck in and around this area. We've had sort of this zone here in particular act as a bit of a resistance zone. So we'll take the box tool and we'll start marking up this. We'll start from these highs here, link it up all the way across here since price has been getting stuck. So we'll take the box tool, link this across and we'll extend all the way through the chart to see if we've had any more touches. So this right here has clearly acted as a level of resistance. Price has come up to this zone here, stalled. Price has come back up to it again at a later date, stalled again and reversed. We saw the same here, 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 until price eventually broke on the 13th of April. Then after it broke, this same zone then became a support floor. Since price was now above, this zone acted as a floor, price popped back off. And then we've had some rejections around here, some more around here. So this zone could potentially be our next buying opportunity, whether it comes down over the next couple of hours or throughout the night. To here we get a buy opportunity, or whether it's more slowly comes down and lines up nicer with this trend line, that could be an opportunity too. But we'll see if there's any more zones in around this area. We can see that this has been one as well. So we'll take the box tool, we'll link up these lows here along with this and line that up like so. This could provide buying opportunities as well, since we've had 1, 2, 3 touches from this zone. But we'll wait till the end of the charts. Chart analysis has been done and then start taking away zones we don't think are too important. So that's the best thing to do. Add as many zones as you can, and then at the end you can go through and sort of take away the least significant areas of interest. Now, since we've done obviously the trend line and these zones and this ascending trend line, we're going to continue and see if we can find more sort of zones relating closer to price to see if there's a trade in the very near future. So this area in particular, going back to obviously the start of March, this area provided a bit of support for price. Price has come into it a few times, popped back up into the same region, popped back up again, and then another time over here. So we'll take the box tool, we'll link up these lows like so, and we'll drag it all the way across to see if we have anything which is sticking. We can see that we've had rejections over here as resistance. Obviously this was all support because price was above this zone. Since it broke on the 23rd, price was then below. This same zone is then going to act as a ceiling, which we saw here and we saw again here until price finally broke above. Now, since price was actually above this zone earlier when we posted it into the group, we can see we actually have had a reaction from this area in particular, which lines up really, really nicely with the 200 moving average line, which is this yellow line here, which acts as a strong floor or ceiling depending on whether price is above or below. So we can see here, for example, the 200 moving average was above price, price touched it and was forced back down. So the first touch of the moving average is always the strongest. We can see here on the second touch price broke through. But then when price came back down below, from above to the moving average, the yellow line, it then bounced back up and there could have been a buying opportunity in there. And that obviously coincided nicely with this level of support and resistance dating back to the start of March. So if we look a little bit more closely, what we can see is that this zone provided a buying opportunity right about here. I don't know if you can see that, but if I zoom in, price came down to the 200 moving average into this level of support and then popped back up. So you could have had a short-term buying opportunity right about there. But we won't dwell on that as that has obviously passed. We're going to see what would be presenting itself over the next few hours or next few days. But something else that I've noticed, there is actually more ascending trend lines apart from the one we've already got drawn in. So it's starting from the same lows, linking up to the next low here, and then obviously across. What we can actually see is that we've had 1 touch, 2 touch here, 3 touches over here, and then price finally broke on the 4th touch. And after it broke this same zone, this same trend line then acted as a bit of a resistance ceiling for price, known as a break and retest of the trend line. So if I get rid of all of this, these zones, you can see it a little bit more clearly. So just like with these support and resistance zones, so taking this area in particular as an example, this was acting as support many times until it finally got broken. And after it was broken and price was then below, the next time price came up into this zone, it acted as a ceiling and price fell. So it works exactly the same with ascending trend lines. So here we have our trend line, we have our first touch, we have our second touch, we have our third touch, and a 4th touch here, which would have provided a small buying opportunity. But as we can see, price shortly broke straight through this trend line. However, the next time price came up into this trend line from beneath this time, it acted as a ceiling since it was above price, and price then fell. So this is known as a break and retest. What we can see, again, this obviously cuts through where we were just mentioning about potential buying opportunities earlier from the 200 moving average, from this previous level of support, which is now turned resistance, and obviously this would have acted as an extra confluence to then buy from. So that trade could have been a nice little buy, possibly catching about 20 to 30 pips on that move. But anyway, price has obviously now broken through this trend line once again, broken through the this previous support and resistance, and it's now just kind of sat on the 200 moving average. So since there are no sort of clear regions standing in price's way between obviously here and down here, what we could expect to see is price continue its descent back down to the next most significant zone. I believe we had this drawn in from earlier as well, something along these lines. So as you can see, between obviously where price is now and here, there's no clear regions standing in GBPAUD's way. So it's likely we could see a descent and price continue its way back down to here before we see a reaction, or even further down to here, or even further down to this ascending trend line, and we'll wait for buys off there. So obviously the most reliable zones to take trades from are those with the most reasons to take the trade from. So that would be when there's multiple things lining up in the same zone, similar to what we saw here. The 200 moving average, the level of resistance, and obviously the trend line. Obviously these support and resistance zones in between are standing pretty much by themselves, so they're not the most significant areas to sort of base a trade on, but you can still keep them in just to see how price reacts around them. So yeah, like I mentioned at the start of this video, there's so much going on these charts. It's not the easiest to dissect, but it's definitely good to sort of give it a go and try these charts out yourself, just to get into the swing of analysing more difficult looking charts. As you know, not every chart is going to be clear cut. There's going to be loads of things going on, and it's nicer to sort of make it hard work for yourself, if that makes sense. So I hope that's all made sense. If you do have any questions about this analysis, please do get in touch, and I'll be happy to speak to you in more detail. But anyway, thanks again for tuning in. I hope I've not bored you to death. Thanks for sharing your charts in the members chat. It's really, really good to see those. And I shall speak to you all in the morning ready for some trades.